You have said there is no need for Westerners to become Buddhists. You have actually encouraged them to stay in their own traditions and incorporate practices where it is helpful. Do you still feel that way? If so, what elements of the Buddhist practices would you suggest would be helpful, most helpful?
That I consider something very important. Firstly, I respect all different major religions, theistic religion, non-theistic religion, within theistic, Judaism and Christianity and Islam and so on. All, I think, about 2,000 years sort of old traditions. So, in the past and present and the future also, I think millions of people get immense inspiration from this religion. So it is sufficient reason to respect. Then secondly, I fully committed promotion of religious harmony. So when we, as a Buddhist, like Mongolia, also some Himalayan regions, it's a Buddhist. So some missionaries say, beside their sort of helping education, health, wonderful. But beside that, they also making effort, conversion. That I usually criticize. So when some missionary people, let's see, conversion, I mean involve activities of conversion, we feel little sort of uncomfortable. Then same way, if I, as a Buddhist, try to propagate Buddhism in Christian country, it's absolutely wrong. So one time in Mongolia, I met some Korean missionaries. They come to see me, and then I told them, this is Buddhist country. If you help some education field or health, most welcome. If you carry some missionary work, then this is not right. This is Buddhist country. So then I told them proudly, when I give some talk or some lecture on Buddhism in the West, I always make clear, Westerners should keep your own traditional faith. Changing religion is not good and not easy also. So I told them, if I myself try to propagate in Buddhism in the West, in non-Buddhist countries, then how to
now criticize them.
Criticize them like that. So therefore, and then also the individual case also. I have a nice story. In early 60, large number of Tibetan, then there is not yet start or resettlement. So many of them, road worker, very difficult. Then one Tibetan official, lay official, he posted in western part of Tibet. So 1959, he had the opportunity escape with his family. So his wife and 2 or 3 children, very young. Then eventually, husband, the official, passed away. Then mother and 2 or 3 children remain. In early 60, I think 60, maybe 62, 63, one day she came to see me, and her stories, her sort of difficult life, she told me. Then she told me, some missionary, at that time, yes, we refugee received immense help from Catholic service.
Relief service.
relief service, and some other Christian missionaries. Really immense help. So she told me she received a lot of help. Then also the missionaries take care about her 2 or 3 children's education also. Then she told me, now for this life, now she become Christian. Then she added, next life she will be Buddhist. That's a clear sign of confusion. Then you see my friend, for example, one Polish old lady, one time, I think after Second World War, during that period, she came to India, escaped into India, then joined Theosophy Theosophical Society in Madras. So since '56, we know each other. Then after '59, she became very close friend of Tibetan, and she helped some the young Tibetan education like that. So eventually she became Buddhist. However, at the time of her end of the life, I think the concept of God, Creator, seems to constantly reflect in her mind. So therefore, it is safer, better keep one's own tradition. So that's, I feel, is very, very important. And those individuals who really, find the Buddhist way of approach is more suitable, then should think again and again and study more. Then fully convinced this Buddhist way of approach is really suitable, really convincing, then okay. As individual freedom, individual right to follow. And meantime, you must respect your own traditional religion. That's very important. Then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, all major world religion is same practice of love, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline, and contentment, simplicity. So in this field, we can learn each other. Some of the Christian monasteries and nunnery in Italy, particularly in Italy, I have some occasion to visit their monastery or nunnery. Oh, the monks and nuns, their lifestyle, very simple, simplicity. Sometimes I felt some Tibetan monastery, I think more luxurious. So we must learn. We must copy. Their sort of simplicity. Wonderful. The present Pope dismissed one German bishop or something. Too much luxurious lifestyle. So Pope found this is wrong, so dismissed. Wonderful. So I think sometimes we Tibetan also need some sort of high group or committee. So some kind of disciplinary action. I think it necessary. I, as an individual, cannot do that. Some kind of group, like that. So, and then single-pointed sort of mind. Single-pointed mind. So we have, I think, still living tradition. Tradition very much living. So some Christian is showing interest to practice single-pointed meditation. That's okay. The late father was a Catholic father,
Brother Wayne.
Brother
Wayne Thies.
Brother Wayne is a very close friend, very, very close. And he very, very staunch supporter about the Tibetan just cause. So, we often, you see, talking about the common practice, these things. One day, he asked me about the one Buddhist unique, the
concept.
Concept. That is emptiness. So he asked me about that sort of concept. Then I told him, this is not your business. This is Buddhist business. Don't ask that. I really, you see, a little bit sort of anxious. It's a Buddhist concept. No absolute, no independent or absolute thing. Everything interdependent or relative from certain level. So therefore, if that concept, if he's sort of familiar, then it might sort of hindrance his single-pointed faith towards Creator as an absolute, independent. So therefore, I deliberately feel, it's not good. So I told him. And then also, you see, I think 2 years ago in South India, in Bangalore, one Hindu also spiritual leader, his organization is really devoted, helping thousands school children, their meal. He's really helping immensely. He constructed sort of special factory making food and some certain sort of a pot and truck. So he daily, you see, serving lunch, many thousand school children. So then he invited me. So then we casual talk. We talk about Buddhism, Buddhist practice and the Hindu practice. Then I told him, yes, Buddhism and Hinduism is like twin. So the practice of moral kasa.
Moral print and morality.
Yeah,
morality.
Or practice of morality, practice of single-pointed mind, or practice of wisdom. These three same. Then the real differences and the demarcation is Atma and Anatma. So Buddhists know soul theory. All Hindus, all non-Buddhist of ancient Indian sort of spirituality, all accept the independent self, or they call soul or Atma. So that's demarcation, differences. So then I told him, yes, these two concepts, independent self, no independent self. So these are our private business. You believe independent self. Okay, believe that. I believe no self, no independent self. I believe that. So I follow that way. So that's private business, no problem. Like that.
Yes. What can we in America do to help Tibetans realize their justice and freedom? And another question which is similar, how can young people get involved to support the Tibetan cause?
Firstly, you see, our cause, I think, just cause. And then my main sort of concern is we have, let's say, our own language, our own script. In Tibetan script, in Tibetan language, I think many Nalanda scholars, masters writing, translated into Tibetan. So we have over 300 volumes which translated from India, mainly Sanskrit, then also Pali, and to some extent I think Nepalese. From translation from Chinese, perhaps I think 15 volumes, 20 volumes. The rest all is translated from Sanskrit and Pali. So now, as a result of meeting with many Buddhists, including many Chinese Buddhists and Japanese or Korea and Vietnamese and Thai or Burma, Sri Lanka, Laos, Cambodia, it became clear that a Tibetan translation not only is a big number, but also is quite precise. Some scholar who knows both Tibetan and Sanskrit, when they find some difficulties to understand the meaning of the Sanskrit, origin Sanskrit, they usually refer Tibetan, because Tibetan translations are very, very precise. So now today, I think the best language to describe fully about a Nalanda tradition is Tibetan language. It's the only language. Although Buddhism, Nalanda tradition, reached China, I think at least 2-3 centuries earlier. But like Madhyamika philosophy, and then also, especially Buddhist epistemology. Epistemology is available only in Tibetan language. So therefore, the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist knowledge, and with that Tibetan culture of peace, culture of non-violence, and ultimately culture of compassion, that kind of thing, really worthwhile to preserve. And not only the 6 million Tibetans' interest, but now China, about 400 million Buddhists. So many of these Chinese Buddhists really showing interest about Tibetan Buddhism. So therefore, really worthwhile. And now China, look, the huge gap reaching the poor, and the moral ethics very, very low. So immense corruptions, like that. So many Chinese really hoping Buddhist sort of teaching can help to develop, to further
to restore
these human values and moral values. Even President Xi Jinping, his recent visit in Europe, in Paris, he publicly expressed in Chinese culture, Buddhism have very important role. So regarding promotion of Chinese culture, Buddhists should have some sort of serious responsibility. And he similarly expressed in New Delhi also. So that, I think, his approach, his thinking, seems very realistic. So it is quite unusual. A communist leader expressing importance of Buddhism is something quite new, isn't it? Like that. So preservation of Tibetan Buddhist knowledge and Buddhist culture is something, I think, really worthwhile and very important. So the problem, hardliner of Chinese communists, their main concern is stability and unity. So they consider unique Tibetan culture, including Tibetan language, they feel a source of threat, of separation. So that is due to their fear and narrow-mindedness. I always telling or expressing when I meet some Chinese, look, India, East India, South India, West India, North India, different language, different script, but no danger of separation. You see, if people, concerned people, have satisfaction, then these different languages, different sort of culture will not be source of separation. And Kashmir is something different because of Pakistan and some political reason. So overall, India, I think, are very, very stable. Some South Indian, they much more prefer their own language. Northern Indian, they say Hindi is more prominent. South Indian, for example, Tamil Nadu, they say Tamil language is much more
Advanced,
like that. That's okay. But so long, you see, they really satisfy, remain Indian Union, like that. So in China, no problem. Keep different people, different culture, different language. That gives them satisfaction. Recently, I met one Chinese who visited Tibet. He told me material development, including new buildings or these, much developed. But Tibetan loves their own culture, their own the Buddhist tradition. So some restriction on that, so that really brings much sort of
feeling of hurt.
Feeling of hurt. One Chinese who visited Tibet, he told me like that. So therefore, so please, whenever you have opportunity meeting with Chinese brothers, sisters, some scholars, some businessmen or women, and then some students, please tell them what is the sort of reality of Tibetan, including Kasachuti,
their culture,
or culture, language. Then environment. One Chinese environmentalist, ecologist, he wrote one article. One Irish ecologist brought that article to me. That article mentioned the Chinese, the ecologist, as a result of his study, he found effect from Tibetan
Plato,
the effect to global warming as much as South Pole, North Pole. So he described Tibetan plateau is third pole. And then obviously, many Indian scholars say the major rivers which cover from China up to Pakistan come from Tibetan plateau. So in these rivers, I think over 1 billion human beings' life depend on these rivers. So preserve ecology and not exploit the river as a natural resources. Sometimes there is some sort of talking, the major rivers which go south,
maybe redirected
to north Gobi Desert. These, I think, some concerned sort of nations, I think, and especially scientists, discuss, research, then make a decision. Otherwise, these are like the Three Gorges.
Three Gorges Dam.
Some scientists, some Chinese scientists, they really have great reservation. So therefore, you see these things. So therefore, ecologically, you see, so very, very sort of
important.
Careful sort of
Conservation.
Conservation is something very, very important. So please tell these things. Then best thing, I often is telling, visit to Tibet. It may be a little bit expensive, so that, you see, you can do something. You borrow some money from your friend. Then, when you reach Tibet, you can buy some antiques. Antique. Then, after you return, you can sell little higher price. So that's very important. Go there, visit. And the Chinese officials always say, oh, Tibet, wonderful, highly developed. They really liberated. So tell them, please, now you mentioned, you see, highly developed, highly sort of satisfied Tibetan. And then let us see, let us go there. So you should go there and see. Then what you saw there, and then telling people what's the reality. If things are very, very good, then nobody complain. We, handful refugee community, our real boss, I always mentioning, real sort of boss inside Tibet. I mean, those Tibetans who are inside Tibet. Refugee population around 150 or 60,000. Inside Tibet, about 6 million. So there is the real our boss. So if boss feel okay, then we have nothing to complain. Then political field. Yes, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, Tibet, some historian, after they thorough research, you see, they say during those centuries, Chinese emperor, Tibetan emperor, Mongol emperor, they say that. According to many Chinese ancient history book, literature, mention that. So, but then about 9th century, end of 9th century, Tibet disintegrated, like that. So now we are in 21st century. Look, European Union. I always admire European Union and also America, United States. I admire small sort of sovereign state, united sort of state. Now United States, like the European Union, already some kind of step they've done. I think German and French, one my sort of tutor, I consider tutor, von Weizsäcker, as a
quantum physicist.
A quantum physicist. We become very, very close sort of friend. I respect him. I admire him. I received some lesson from him. So I often used to telling, when I listen, when I receive teaching from him, explanation about quantum physics, and also David Bohm, these two persons. I consider my tutor about quantum physics. So when I listen, their explanation seems I understand something. After finished the lesson, nothing left here. So I usually describe hopeless student. So David Von Weizsäcker, you see, once mentioned to me, when he was young, then every German eye, French is their enemy. Similarly, French eye, German is their enemy. When we are talking these things, I think in the 1990s, and then he said, nowadays, that kind of sort of concept completely changed. So, Adenauer, first German Chancellor, and de Gaulle, French leader, traditionally enemy, because of new circumstances, new reality. So these two persons initiated the spirit of European Union. So therefore, you see, reality changed. Now today, not only sovereign states, but whole, the continent depend on each other. So that's today's reality. So I often is expressing Africa, some kind of union, Pan-Africa, some kind of union is the future of Africa. Small states and the civil war or fighting each other, it's mutual destruction. So, believe these things. So, we also, you see, since 74, you see, we make up in our mind, now we should not sort of fight for complete independence. Now we should sort of try to materialize the Chinese constitution, give certain right that should implement on the spot. Like totalitarian system. Sometimes on paper mention something nice things. Nice. But doing implementation is different. Only control. So, and then also, I think I want to mention, you see, some Chinese accusations, some Chinese like United Front, see, they accuse us, you see, we are seeking greater Tibet. No, this very word, greater Tibet, we never sort of use this word. The Chinese officials use that. What we ask them is, in the constitution, consider Tibetan ethnic groups area, which is a Tibetan ethnic groups area. So the constitution arranged autonomous region, autonomous prefecture, autonomous district, autonomous county. So those area, constitution recognized as an ethnic Tibetan ethnic group, then we should have same right. So that's our sort of like that. So therefore, it's a middle way, not seeking independence, not satisfy present arrangement. So that's why we call middle way approach. Like that. So telling these things whenever you have sort of opportunity, that's the way to help. Okay. Huh?
Since Mayor Walsh has already left, so I would like to ask Richard Gale to say a few words.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I know you are all also. And I see all these smiling faces out here. This is really a fortunate time for us to be able to spend this very precious minutes and a couple of hours now with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He's been a friend to all of us now for a very long time, personal friend of mine, but I think after this time here, he's a personal friend of all of yours as well. I remember there was a story that His Holiness told us after he had seen the movie that Marty Scorsese made about him, Kundun, very beautiful movie. And His Holiness, a little afterwards, he was very wistful after seeing the movie. And he said, you know, when I left Tibet and I came to India, I crossed the border and there were people there to greet me, and the Kampas who had brought me across the border, they got back on their horses and they went back into Kham. And he said, I realized I would never see them again, and he didn't. And he looked back away from Tibet to India, and there were people he didn't know everywhere. There were strangers. And he said, now, these many years later, everywhere I go, I have friends. And that's an extraordinary thing for all of us, this amazing life that he's had, but he shared that with us, and he shared his wisdom and his heart and inspired us all. And I think we're all better people for being here today, but even hearing the word Dalai Lama, seeing his face, we're better people. So I want to thank you all for being here, but especially thank you, Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama.
Respected principals or teachers, and actually elder brothers, sisters, and then young brothers, sisters. Whenever I meet people, I always look fundamental level. There we are same human being. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. And then most important, we all have same human brain. Great potential. And also sometimes this sophisticated great potential sometimes create more problem, more suffering. But basic human nature is more compassionate. The way, you see, we born, according some scientists, after birth, next few weeks, simply mother's physical touch is major factor for proper development of the brain. Then some scientists, quite well-known scientists, you see, they show us, see they are sort of experiment. Very young age, child, age 3 to 3, 4 year old. She showed them some kind of cartoon. In it, you see, two sort of children play helping each other. One negative, harming each other. So the young children, young child, very young, 2, 3, 4 year old, their natural reaction when they saw positive,
helping each other. They sort of express joy. Right? And then when you see they saw negative way, so then these scientists is telling us basic human nature is more compassionate. It is quite true. We are a social animal. So any social animal, even other animals or birds, which you see their individual survival depend on community, biologically, they have a certain sort of tendency, you see, the sense of community. And mentally, which mind or emotion bring together is love, affection. Anger, jealousy, because apart, separate, create sort of separation or distance. So therefore, since we are social animal, biologically, we equipped, you see, a sense of sort of community. Genuine sense of community means sense of concern of others' well-being. So there is possibility this marvelous brain, intelligence, combine that as the feeling, sense of concern of others' well-being, then our intelligence, our marvelous brain can be constructive. So therefore, in spite of the many troublemakers on this planet, not only in the past, but even today, these, as far as education or brain is concerned, they are very marvelous. Very sophisticated brain and very good education. Highly educated. However, as I mentioned before, if we make some attempt and a proper plan, the way to educate humanity, because of basic sort of potential and basic nature, we can make more compassionate humanity. That's my fundamental belief.